Ready to get started? Okay, Chandra.
7.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's workshop presented by Norfolk County Alumni Chapter. My name is Chandra Parks. I am the Economic Development Chair, and on behalf of our President, Dr. Sean Ashford, we would like to welcome you to this evening's workshop, which is very exciting for all the students out there, for all the parents out there. Our topic this evening is about finding money to fund your college dream. So I know you are excited to hear all the tips, all the strategies that we have for you this evening by our wonderful presenters. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to introduce to you Sora Lisa Brooks, who will just talk to you about how this evening will go.
Thank you, Chandra, and welcome everyone to our session tonight. As she stated, my name is Lisa Brooks. I'm on the Economic Development Committee and so glad to have you here tonight. So tonight we are in for a treat, but before we get to all the scholarship talk, I do want to allow us to hear a tip on health is wealth. And so that tip will be brought to us tonight by Marlene Rim.
Good evening, everyone. This will be a quick tip. And the title of my tip tonight is Take a Deep Breath. In addition to having difficulty breathing through a mask, studies have shown that most of us are breathing inadequately. We have to take in enough oxygen to supply our muscles, our organs, and our brain. So here are a few quick tips to ensure an adequate oxygen supply. Number 1, breathe through your nose so that raw air outside, raw air intake is filtered and heated. That's why you have hair in your nose. This helps with your blood pressure and your oxygen level. The next tip is take slow, deep breaths using your diaphragm. And that's what they call belly breathing. When you breathe, you should push out your stomach when you're inhaling, not your chest, so that you're using your diaphragm. And this helps to relax you also, and it helps to calm you down. That's why you hear people say, take a deep breath, just take a deep breath. That's exactly what they're talking about. Number 3, before you put on your mask, take 5 quality breaths. And a quality breath means that you're taking in air slowly through your nose and you're breathing it out through your mouth even slower than that. Do this about 5 times before you put your mask on so that you have an adequate oxygen supply already. And do this before and after you wear your mask. For those people who are working and required to wear a mask for an extended time, whenever you get a chance, take a break, preferably outside, and do some of those deep breathing exercises to get your oxygen level up. Do that as often as you can. And like I said, preferably outside where you're breathing fresh air. When you're working all day and you're inside, everybody's breathing in that same air. So it's important that you can get outside and get some fresh air. And that's my tip for today because I can't find my button. There it is. Health is wealth. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you. So without our health, we couldn't do anything else, right?
Right. Nothing else is better.
Yes, definitely. That definitely matters. We thank you so much for that. And as you were saying it, I actually found myself just breathing and taking in fresh breath.
Yes, those short, quick breaths, that's your fight or flight breathing, but you don't want to do that because you're using your neck muscles instead of your diaphragm. And diaphragm is what keeps you going.
Got it. Thank you.
Right.
For many of us that are looking for scholarships, we know that deep breathing is definitely helpful because it can be stressful. But you all tuned in tonight to hear from some experts, and you are in for a treat. We're going to hear from 2 ladies that are experts in the field of scholarships, and they're going to share some best practices, some tips, and things to help you. Now, I will share that this workshop came out of my own selfish need for information. I have utilized both of these ladies and leveraged both of them as I seek to find scholarships for my son, who is a senior in high school. And so you are not alone. I'm right where you are. So even though I'm the facilitator, I'm gonna be taking in as much information as I can. So let me tell you a little bit about our speakers tonight. First, we have Miss Tiffany Spalding. Tiffany is a school counselor at Arundel High School located in Gambrills, Maryland, and a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She has spent most of her school counseling career in Anne Arundel County Public Schools as a high school counselor, but she also had worked as an elementary and middle school counselor for Prince George's County Public Schools. Over the years, she has helped 100% of the seniors on her caseload apply and get accepted to college and earn scholarship money. She has helped students gain interest into their dream schools, which includes schools like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Columbia, Cornell, Vanderbilt, the Naval Academy, and the list goes on. For the past 7 years, Ms. Spalding's students have received both national and local scholarships totaling over $50 million. Additionally, Ms. Spalding increased the amount of students' participation in apprenticeships, internships, and job shadowing experiences, which not only helped the students stand out on their college applications for scholarships, but it also allowed her students to get exposure to various career professions and provided them with opportunities for job placement and future internships beyond high school. Ms. Spalding understands that knowledge is power, and her motto that she wants to leave with us is students who graduate from college with little to no debt. So that will be our first presenter, Ms. Tiffany Spalding. And Tiffany is going to talk to you about some of the basics that we all should know when we enter this journey. And then our second presenter today is Ms. Kara Jones. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Kara Jones is a native of Maryland. She holds a master's degree in cybersecurity from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC, and a bachelor's degree in computer information systems from the Notre Dame of Maryland University. Ms. Jones realized early in her college career that she needed assistance funding college in order to stay in school. She began seeking out scholarships and was the winner of many notable scholarships, such as the FACEA Cyber Studies Scholarship, the National Science Foundation's Pathways to Excellent Fellowship, and the Central Scholarship $30,000 Student Loan Paydown Award. Wow, and much more. Ms. Jones has worked for a renowned consulting firm in the intelligence community and is now spreading her wealth of knowledge through her business, Free Money Meister, where she and her team of Meisters provide scholarship and student loan minimization guidance through speaking engagements, workshops, consultations, and memberships. So she's going to talk to us about how to find that money. So we're going to start first with Ms. Tiffany Spalding, who, as I mentioned, is a high school guidance counselor. She's my son's high school guidance counselor. So Tiffany, welcome. I'll let you start your presentation.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for having me. I'm very excited to be here. And I want to make sure that you are seeing my screen.
And I'll say while she's pulling that up, if you all have any questions throughout the session tonight, I should have added that you can use the chat feature on the screen there, as well as we'll have a time between each speaker for Q&A. So,
all right.
Without further ado, Ms. Spalding.
Let's go. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about the high school checklist, types of funding. We'll go into FAFSA, CSS profile, and reading an award letter. So let's start with the high school checklist. So normally I don't like to read everything on a PowerPoint presentation, but I think this list is pretty important. So I would like to just discuss everything on here with you all. So first, be intentional about your class choices. It is important for the students and parents who have students that they choose honors and AP Advanced Placement or IB International Baccalaureate courses, so that they can have that on their transcript. Colleges are looking at that as well as the types of classes that you are choosing. So you want to have a variety of classes so that you can show that you have a variety of interests and that you are challenging yourself with not just the easy classes. Meet with your school counselor at least twice a year, every single year. Do that so that you can know the high school graduation requirements and college entrance requirements. So for example, for college entrance requirements, even though Anne Arundel County may say that you only have to have 3 science courses, maybe the college that you're applying to may want you to have 4. Now, again, I'm just using that example. I'm not saying that that is the case, but do your research. Complete the lunch application form yearly. That form for students and whose parents qualify, that will allow students whose families have a lower income to gain college applications. Those applications will be waived, as well as the SAT and or ACT test fees will be waived, and maybe your AP and IB tests will be waived, or maybe they'll be given to you at a reduced cost. So it's really important that even if students don't eat lunch, make sure you complete that lunch application form yearly in case you do qualify. For my athletes, get familiar with and register for the NCAA Clearinghouse and the NAIA. Participate in extracurricular activities like sports and clubs. It is so important to get involved in sports and clubs in your school, not only just because it's good to, for team purposes, and it helps you to build confidence and friendships, but it also helps you when you're applying for scholarships and on your college applications. Volunteer, that's very important as well. In AACPS, for example, students earn their volunteer hours through their curriculum. And so they do not have to go out and do any volunteer work per se. However, when you are applying for a scholarship, and if they ask that question, did you volunteer? And you say, yeah, I did. I got it through my curriculum. Well, that's not going to help you to stand out. So you want to make sure that you can participate in volunteer opportunities. Again, it makes you feel good when you help other people and all of the wonderful things that come along with volunteering. When you do volunteer, make sure that you are keeping track of your own hours. Make sure that you are maybe getting letters from the organization that you volunteered, and keep that in a folder somewhere where you can access it. So again, when you do apply for college or when you do apply for a scholarship, you'll have that information handy. Take on leadership roles. If you can't be the captain of your sports team, maybe you can be the treasurer or the secretary in a club, or the president. And also, some of my students cannot do any sports or clubs or activities because maybe their families need them to take care of younger siblings. That's also a leadership role. Participate in internships, apprenticeships, job shadowing experiences. By doing so, every school should have some type of internship coordinator. By participating in these experiences, you get such wonderful opportunities. You can participate and eventually maybe get a job, or maybe it'll help you see that you don't want to do this job in the future, or maybe you want to do the job in the future. So again, participate in these opportunities. Talk to your parents to see if they have any friends in the careers that you're interested in. And also your teachers and counselor, please utilize us as resources. Take advantage of summer programs if you can. There are colleges like the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab. Sometimes they have opportunities in the summer. University of Maryland, and even colleges out of state provide students with opportunities to participate in various programs depending on what your interests are. And sometimes those colleges will even provide you with a financial aid packet or a scholarship whereby you or your family will not have to pay anything or pay very little. If you can, work a part-time job. There are statistics that show students who work a part-time job prior to graduating high school end up doing pretty well in the future because they've had experience both managing a part-time job and going to school. Establish relationships with your teachers and counselor and principal. Remember, your teachers, preferably your junior teachers, are going to be the ones that are writing your letters of recommendation. And your counselor and principal may also have to write a letter of recommendation for you. So it's important to connect with those teachers and establish great relationships with them. Discover your learning style. It's so important that while you're in school, that this high school is great practice, right? For you to learn these life skills. So learn your learning style, learn how to study and take notes and organize and manage your time. While these things are really important while you're in high school, they will certainly help you when you're in college and definitely help you in life. and study and take the SAT and or the ACT. So many students are offered the opportunity to take the PSAT in Anne Arundel County Public Schools, typically during their junior year. And when you take the PSAT, that's the pre-SAT, if you score high enough, and the PSAT or the SAT is out of 1,600 points. So if you score high enough, then you could potentially, closer to that 1,600 point, you could potentially earn scholarship money. And those scholarships are going to come from big name organizations and also from the colleges that you are applying to. So it's really important that you study and plan and prepare just as you would for any other test, or if you play a sport, you would practice and prepare for that test. By taking the PSAT your junior year, that can certainly help you. Now, if you are not able to take the PSAT your junior year and you weren't able to, then go ahead and try taking the SAT your junior year. I highly recommend to all my students that they take the SAT at least twice their junior year, and or ACT at least twice their junior year, so that they can focus on applying to college and for scholarships their senior year. I am a big fan of students applying to college during that early action deadline or early deadline. Now that depends, it could be anywhere from October 15th to November 1st. And there's an old saying, the early birds catch the worms. So sometimes when you apply to those colleges early, not only will you find out early whether or not you got accepted into the college, but you could also be placed in a category to receive scholarship money for applying early to the colleges. And again, it is very important that everybody study for the SAT and or ACT. I sometimes get the question, which one should I take? If you can take them both, by all means do so. And the one that you did better on. So if you did better on the ACT, take that again. And again, make sure you study. While in school, take career and personality surveys to help you with finding a career. By doing this, they will provide you with, the surveys will provide you with various careers that you may find yourself interested in based on your answers. And let's just say that you're not interested in any of the careers they have to offer. That's okay too. It is good to kind of help you with making a decision if you're having a hard time trying to decide on a career. And also it helps when you take the survey, it also helps you with choosing high school courses, because I'm old school. And so when I was in high school, we didn't have a whole lot of classes to choose from. But nowadays, high school students have so many things to choose from. And so it's really important that if you can, take the career and personality surveys. Also, make sure you research colleges. I can't stress to you how important it is to research colleges. I have heard from students, oh, I did not know I applied to UMBC, but I didn't know they didn't have this one component of engineering. Or I applied to Spelman College and I didn't know they didn't have a business program. So it's really important that you research your colleges before you apply. And it's also important to visit colleges. So virtual college visits were actually happening before we went on to virtual learning. So it is still a thing where you can go online and visit a college's website and get familiar with the college, and also get on the college's mailing list. Because when you apply to a college, kind of like what they call a cold application, that means you never got on a mailing list, you never requested any information. It doesn't really help you to stand out. But when you've actually put in some effort, you're emailing the college, you're getting on the college's mailing list, that really does help you. So again, those are all great things for you to do in high school. And finally, learn how to advocate for yourself. If you don't know how to get help from your teacher, if you're afraid to ask your teacher for help, now is the time to get over those fears, because when you go to college, we're going to expect you to be able to do that. You're going to have to know, when you're in college, where is the writing lab and where is the math lab, because when you're in college, it's not free. And so you want to make sure you are doing well, and doing well in college is knowing how to advocate for you. And finally, Make sure you are aware of mental health resources. It's so important right now. A lot of us are struggling in the pandemic, and it is always important to know how you can advocate for yourself, even mentally. All right, so let's talk about money. So there's two types of financial aid. There's do and don't money, right? There's money that you have to pay back, and that's in loans, and that's don't money. Money that you don't have to pay back, and that's grants, scholarships, and gifts. There's various types of funding. So for scholarships, there's need-based scholarships, and that means that a student qualifies for a scholarship based on their family's income. There's merit-based scholarships, and that's when a student qualifies for money based on your academic performance in high school or your community service or leadership skills. And again, these are need-based and merit-based scholarships. And it's federal Pell Grants. This is based on students' financial need, and it is money that does not have to be paid back. And there are state grants, and that's based on need and merit. And if there is a website that I put up, it's the Maryland Higher Education Commission. In that website, there are various links for scholarships that you can apply to. So for example, if you are a community college student, there's the Maryland Community Promise Scholarship. That scholarship is on that website. But take it a little bit step further. Let's say that you are thinking about a major that nowhere in the state of Maryland offers that particular major. Did you know that there is a place where that you can apply for in-state tuition at colleges that offer that major? So it's very important that you check out that website and register with them. There's military grants such as the GI Bill and federal work study. Students can earn money for college while working a part-time job at the college. And there are teacher grants. Students who agree to teach in a high needs school can also earn money. Institutional grants, which those are given by the student's college, and the federal supplemental education opportunity grants, which provides funding for students that require a lot of financial aid. So let's talk about FAFSA. So to get those scholarships and those grants and things that were mentioned on the previous page, you have to complete a FAFSA. So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. And it's an online application that you will complete to help you pay for college. The FAFSA application opens October 1st of your senior year. So if you're a junior, you can't apply just yet. You have to wait until October 1st. And the Maryland deadline for the FAFSA is March 1st. You complete the FAFSA by completing an application online. It takes about 30 minutes or so, and there are people that will help you with completing the FAFSA. If you need the help, there are so many different resources out there. Once you've completed the FAFSA, you are provided with a SAR, and that's the Student Aid Report. The SAR determines your family's expected family contribution, which is the EFC. Once the FAFSA is completed and you've added all the colleges on the FAFSA, then your application is submitted to the college's financial aid office, and the college determines how much money you can afford to pay. So today is February 10th, and you have 3 weeks to get that to meet that March 1st deadline to apply for FAFSA. So if there are seniors in here, make sure you do so. At the end of your application, when it is completed, you will receive the SAR, as I mentioned before. And on the SAR, it shows you the application date, the date it was processed, your family's expected contribution, and it will also have your Social Security number. I added that because when you are looking for scholarships, for example, one thing you don't ever want to do is give out your Social Security number or your parent's Social Security number. There are some scholarships that will require that, very, 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 very few, and you really have to make sure you do your research. So again, but the FAFSA will require your Social Security number. All right, so how is financial need determined at the colleges? So what happens is there is the COAs, a lot of acronyms. COA is the cost of attendance for 1 year of college. Now, I want everyone to keep that in mind when you're applying for college, because you're not just paying for the first year, you're going to have money for year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. So the COA includes the tuition fees, living expenses, and books and transportation and miscellaneous items. And what happens is basically they're going to take the college financial aid office will take the COA, which is the cost of attendance, and subtract it from your EFC, which is your expected family contribution, determine how much need-based aid you can get, and they'll also take into account the scholarships and awards that you have received. So let's talk about some FAFSA mythbusters. The one that I always hear all the time is, my family makes too much money. I can't do the FAFSA. I'm not going to get anything. The FAFSA is a loan. There is no income cutoff to qualify for federal student aid. So you should definitely apply for FAFSA. Even if your parents have the money to pay for college, there's nothing wrong with getting additional money, scholarship money, so that you can have that money for so many different things. You can use that money to invest. You can use that money to maybe study abroad. So again, it is important that everybody fills out the FAFSA, as even colleges may not even consider you for scholarships if you don't complete the FAFSA. Another one I hear is, only students with good grades get FAFSA. That's not true. When you're a senior in high school and applying for FAFSA, they're not looking at your GPA. However, when you're in college, please make sure you understand that whether or not you get financial aid could be dependent on your grade point average and also the number of credits you are taking. I also hear, I don't have good credit, so I can't get the FAFSA. Well, it's not true, because they're not looking at your credit when you're applying for FAFSA. There is an exception, and that is the parent loan, and I will talk to you about that in just a minute. And then another one I hear is, federal student aid is free money. No, it is a loan, which means you're going to have to pay it back. So what's a PLUS loan? A PLUS loan is a parent loan. It's a federal loan that parents take out to help pay for their child's tuition. And there is a borrowing limit, and they're looking at the cost of tuition, and they're going to take away any financial aid that you've received. They're going to subtract that, I should say. And the parent is responsible for the loan, not the student, and a credit check is conducted. And so that's where that credit check comes in. And so if a parent has adverse credit history, then they may not qualify for the PLUS loan. So moving on about another additional funding is the CSS profile. The CSS profile is found on the College Board's website. And if you remember, the College Board is where you register for the SAT or where you get your AP scores from. They also have the CSS profile, which is the College Scholarship Service profile. And this allows students to pay for non-federal financial aid. And so not all colleges subscribe to the CSS profile. Typically, it's colleges that are your highly selective colleges like Vanderbilt and Stanford, and your Ivy Leagues like Yale and Harvard. And so what you do is those colleges are registered with the CSS profile. And what they're doing is they're looking at a much more in-depth view of your parents' finances. And in that way, they may actually give you additional scholarship money or lower price tuition if your student actually qualifies. All right, so what do you do once you get that financial award letter, financial aid award letter? So if you get a financial aid award letter, that means you've been accepted to college. And so by then you should have done your research as far as like how much college is gonna cost and how much is it gonna cost if I have room and board. So the COA, again, they're looking at your tuition, room and board, books, and miscellaneous fees. They're going to take a look at any scholarships and grants and work study that you've had. They're going to look at your federal student loans, unsubsidized and subsidized. So that means that there are loans that when you're in college, you immediately start accruing interest. And the minute you step out of college, then interest will start accruing. So that's the difference between unsubsidized and subsidized. And then the EFC is your expected family contribution, as I mentioned before. So again, they're going to take the cost of attendance and subtract it from any financial aid, and then they will determine how much money your family has to pay. And it is always good to make sure you have applied to more than one college, that you're looking at not just public schools, but also private schools. As private schools have a pretty large endowment, meaning they have a lot of money that they like to award to students. So make sure you're looking at both and doing a comparison to see how much your family can afford to pay. And again, my motto is I want to see everyone come out of college with little to no debt. And so again, it's really important that you do your research. So I'm going to turn it over to Kiera, who's going to show us the money and give us more information about how you can get that.
I'm gonna jump in there really quickly. Tiffany, thank you so much. We really appreciate that because I want our audience to be able to ask you some questions before we go to Kiera for the money. But I do see, I'll start with one question that I see. Well, let me ask Yolande. She's actually the tracker of the questions on Zoom. Yolande?
Of course, I needed to unmute myself.
No problem.
But Tiffany, I do have a question for you from the audience. Do you have to wait for the acceptances to put the college name on FAFSA?
No, actually, you should, any college that you are applying to, you should go ahead and add it to FAFSA. And there's been two schools of thought on that, as far as like adding the colleges. From my understanding, there was a time that if you added the colleges just randomly, the colleges will see that you added, maybe let's say UMD was your number one and Towson was your number two, but in your mind, Towson was your number one school and you put Towson second. So they will look at that. So one thing I've heard is just to alphabetize all the colleges that you're applying to. So if it's Bowie State first, then Coppin, then Morgan, and then UMD last. So that's just a tip that I've heard, but do your research. You should absolutely add all the colleges that you're applying to on your FAFSA, and you can always make changes if you need to.
Now, is anyone from the audience would like to ask a direct question? If you do, feel free. Okay.
I can ask one, Yolande, and there may be one more in the chat, and then I'll actually ask our Facebook audience too. One thing that you said, Tiffany, which kind of piqued my ears, was you said the college determines the amount you can afford to pay. So that would mean that each college, your family contribution is different?
That's a great question. So your EFC, the SAR that you're given on the student aid report, they're going to provide you with an EFC. But that is correct. The colleges will make a determination on what you're going to have to pay. Does that answer it?
Yeah, so it could be different for each school. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do have one other question. If you don't find a job immediately after you graduate from college, do you have to pay back that student loan?
Yeah, so they give you, I think, a grace period of 6 months. And just an FYI to everyone, you don't have to take the student loan, even though you qualify, you don't have to take it. But yes, I think you have about 6 months to start making a payment. Now you can defer that payment, but when you defer, that's going to, you're just going to get more interest added. So be wise about it. I know Kiera Jones is going to give us some more information to help people with maybe not taking out loans.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So if my child received the unsubsidized and the subsidized loans, but depending on a college that she goes to, there's still a balance. How would the rest of the balance be paid if I don't want to do a Parent Plus loan?
Okay, I'm sorry, say that again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, say it
So
one more time.
Okay, so if my child completed the FAFSA, and she received the money from the government, but it's not enough to cover the entire semester or the year, where would the rest of the money come from if the parent is not willing to take out a Parent Plus loan?
Right. So, I mean, that would be up to the family to decide, are there scholarships that she can get? Are there, can she, talk with the college financial aid office to see if there's additional money that she can get? So I think it's really up to, the family to decide what they want to do. Did I answer your question?
You did. I didn't know. I kind of thought you was going to say that I could get more from the federal government, but I think it's a flat.
It's a flat.
type
It's $5,500 as a freshman. I believe it's $6,500 sophomore, and it goes up every year. So there's a flat federal loan that
Okay.
students can get.
Yeah, that was my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chandra, are there any questions so far on the Facebook post?
There are no questions as it relates to any posts from the Facebook, and we do have another question in the chat.
Okay, go right ahead.
The question was, is there any correlation between the amount of money you get and the date you submit the FAFSA?
No. You just have to make sure that you get it in by the March 1st Maryland deadline.
And that's a good question because
That's a great question.
Well, you hear a lot that, apply as soon as possible, because once the money's gone or you have a better chance of getting money the earlier you apply.
So I believe Maryland is not a first come, first served state. There are states that are like that, but I believe Maryland is not a first come, first served state.
And they ran
Yes, it
them.
I
is.
have a question. I heard you talk about scholarships. Did you mention anything about grants? Did I miss that?
Yes, I did mention grants.
Mhm.
There's federal
Okay.
Pell grants and grants that are given by the institution and so forth. And so grants are things that you don't have to pay back.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any of our audience members live or via chat? I did get one note, a person chatted me a question and they said they were told that if you're denied if a parent applies for the Parent Plus loan and they're denied, then the child can get more unsubsidized, that's true? Okay.
That is correct. And it is money that the child is responsible for paying back. So that is correct. If the parent is denied the Plus loan, then they will get additional funding. But we are here for not having to pay back a whole bunch of money. So I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Brooks.
Yes, we sure are. We sure are, I tell you. Okay, let me see if I see any. Oh, is there a cap to how much money a student can borrow?
Yes.
Private loans, that would be private loans that the students, federal loans there is a cap. It's $5,500 and it goes up every year. But private loans would come more from the financial institution, and they'll determine how much money a student can borrow.
Okay, there's still another question. If you don't pay back your student loan, does this affect your credit?
Yes, it will 100% adversely affect your credit. So you definitely want to make sure you pay back those loans.
Are there any other questions from the audience?
I think we have a question in the chat from a high school senior.
Oh,
I see it there, unsubsidized and subsidized, and I apologize. I can't. I know that one, you will accrue interest the minute you step foot on campus with the loan. The other one, when you step foot off of campus. So, for example, if you go to Johns Hopkins University for one semester and you decide you're not going back the second semester, then you will start accruing interest. So they both accrue interest. It's just that one starts accruing interest the minute you are on campus. And then the other one starts accruing interest once you are finished or once you step off campus.
Thank you. Let me ask one more question and then we'll turn it over to Ms. Kiera. So you had mentioned in your checklist, which I thought was very wonderful, those 20 items from the checklist, you suggest take advantage of summer programs. Where would a student, besides looking on the internet and finding tons of stuff, how would a student find those summer programs?
Yeah, so I think perhaps visiting college websites to see if they have any opportunities, and also speak with a career or internship coordinator at your high school or your counselor.
So counselors are a wealth of information and knowledge. We thank you so much. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate all the knowledge that you shared with us tonight. And without further ado, let's talk about scholarships, because loans is one way to pay for college, but scholarships is an even sweeter way to pay for colleges. So we're going to turn it over now to Ms. Kiara Jones, owner of the Free Money Meister.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to stop video because I really like to focus directly on what we are presenting. So let me know when you can see. All right.
Yes, we can see it. It's in the, yep, now it's full screen. We see it. Thank you.
Okay, great. So you already heard about me and my story, 5 years, 2 degrees, $0 in student loan debt, all funded through scholarships, grants, fellowships, and a $30,000 student loan paydown. So why am I even doing this? Well, I want to help others. And when you get a $30,000 student loan paydown, you have to offset those taxes somehow. So I purchased a home and I started a business to help other people do it. So I want to talk to you tonight about free money and why it's important. I want you to understand how student loan debt occurs, and we're going to walk through how to minimize student loan debt through scholarships. We will also discuss where to find scholarships and what to expect. So it is very important tonight that we have a scholarship mindset. And what is a scholarship mindset? There seems to be a lot of fear around scholarships. How do I find them? How do I get them? Where do I look? We're going to talk about that, and I want to minimize your fear. So let's make a promise tonight. If you have not applied for one scholarship, go through the steps that we're going to talk about and promise that you'll apply for at least one, and you will see it is much easier than what you think. All right, so my company, we do a few things. We talk about scholarships and provide scholarship consultations, workshops, and speaking engagements, but we also focus on student loan minimization. So if you already have student loan debt. And why are we doing this? Because there is a student loan debt crisis in the United States right now. We're going to talk about that. And also, we're combating the wealth diversity gap, and we'll talk about that more as well. Okay, so free money. All of these items here are examples of free money: scholarships, grants, fellowships, and student loan paydowns. Tonight, we're going to talk about scholarships, but to answer some questions from the chat earlier, what are grants? Well, you'll typically see grants as like federal funding, such as the Pell Grant, or it could come from your state as well. But there are also things out there like interest-free loan grants. These are also very rare. There's one that I will tell you about tonight from Central Scholarships. They offer a 0% interest-free loan grant. Definitely check that out. Also, fellowships. What are those? Those pertain to your degree or the career that you're going to go in. Free money as well, but it typically has a focus on a particular area. And then student loan paydowns, well, that's actually an increasing area. They were very rare a few years ago. That is when someone wants to give you money to pay down student loans that you already have. And that can come from the private sector. It can also come from nonprofits as well. But tonight, we're going to focus on scholarships. And we will talk about the different types of scholarships and exactly what they are. But just know that scholarships are free money that's given to you from many organizations, different types, such as churches, businesses such as Google. They can come from many places. Why is free money important? So what you truly need to understand is that student loan debt is the second largest consumer debt category behind only mortgage debt, and higher than both credit cards and auto loans. So borrowers in the class of 2020 on average owed about $35,397. Now you will see this number fluctuate up and down, but just know it's in the $30,000 range. And for students who may not have had exposure to that amount of money before, and if you have, you are very blessed, I want to give you an example of what that truly means. So that is 8,328 Starbucks chai tea lattes. I don't know about you, but I love Starbucks chai tea lattes. I don't like that many though. That's a lot of lattes. That is 50 iPhone 11s. And as you can see, it's just a lot of money. And you could use your money to pay for these things, but what we want you to do is use your money for your future. If you don't pay that in student loan debt, you could get a home. You could also invest. It changes your trajectory, your wealth trajectory overall if you minimize student loan debt. Okay, so what you can see here on the screen, and hopefully I'm not blocking it with all the stuff that I have on my screen. What you'll see here is that Sallie Mae, they come out with this report every year, how America pays for college. And a few years ago, this is what they said statistically is how Americans pay for college. They said, as of today, if your child wants to go to school, that the parent should have $7,801 in cash, and that the child should have $3,502 in cash. If this is not the case for you, do not worry, because it wasn't the case for me or many of the other instructors at my company. And what we realized is if you don't have this amount of money, you're more than likely to have student loan debt. So in our opinion, it should be more in student loan debt than in those categories. Also, another thing that Sallie Mae said this year is that families and parents are starting to apply for the FAFSA less and less. And that's really unfortunate. And I think it pertains to what Tiffany said earlier. Some people don't realize that you can still get money through the FAFSA or have access to loans despite your family's income or other factors. So it's always good to just go ahead and apply for it. And the most unfortunate part of it all, this is a really old statistic, but it is out there because they don't do this often, and it's something that we need to be aware of. If you are of a certain demographic, you could be more likely to have student loan debt than others. Matter of fact, Black or African Americans are 84.3% more likely to borrow for bachelor's degrees than their counterparts. And so one thing for sure is that each year college costs go up. Most Americans borrow money for college, and unfortunately, certain demographics borrow more for college. So how does student loan debt even occur? Well, we talked about a few key things, right? We talked about the FAFSA and getting your ESC score. Let's just talk about this college admissions process. So you can apply for scholarships between the grades of 9th through 12th, but most people don't realize you can apply for scholarships in middle school. So you can always apply prior to actually being interested in going to school. So you don't have to apply in 11th grade or 12th grade. But if you do not, it is not the end of the world because you can also apply for scholarships in college. Just know that it is something that you can do before and after. It is never too early or too late when it comes to scholarships. And also, these things were mentioned before, so I won't go into to detail, but you really want to study for the SAT and ACT because that can impact the cost of schooling as well. So what's going to happen is when you apply for your school and you get your award letter, the school is going to tell you how much funding they are going to give to you. And eventually, you will get something that is an itemized letter of what you owe and what you're paying for. So in this example, we have a student account statement. And this is my actual student account statement. One thing I want you to be aware of is that you should know everything that you're paying for. If you have any questions, reach out to the financial aid office. Financial aid offices historically are just hard to deal with. So go ahead and be mentally prepared for that. But make sure you know what's on your statement because there are things, depending on the school, that you can get waived. So as you can see here in the blue, I had a parking decal cost $85. I told the school I do not have a car, so I don't need a decal. They waived the fee. Also, I was on my mother's insurance, so I didn't need student insurance, so I asked them to please waive that as well. Well, you'll see here, you can get scholarships from the school, and they will be on your statement. And also in the red, you will see the unsubsidized and subsidized loans. To answer the question from earlier, I'll give you an example. Subsidized loans are if I give you $100 today, and you pay me back before you graduate, you only owe me $100. But if you pay me after you graduate, you could owe me $400, $500, because that loan will start accruing interest. Direct unsubsidized loans, as soon as I give you that $100, you owe me more. I don't care when you pay me, you're going to owe me more because it's been accruing interest. And unsubsidized loans, obviously, is less preferable than subsidized, but subsidized are also based on financial need. So you may not have access to it as well. So one thing that I want to mention from the previous slide, it was also asked earlier, what happens if you have your invoice and it has the loans, but you still have a balance? Well, that is when typically people go and they get private student loans. One thing to know about private student loans is when you hear on the news that student loans have been paused or Biden's thinking about student loan forgiveness, that will not necessarily apply to you because he is talking about federal student loans. So the one downside of private loans, even though sometimes maybe you'll get a great interest rate, is that when those loans are paused or when there's any sort of federal guidance on those loans, they're not talking about private loans. And so it's really, again, a decision, like Tiffany said, that is up to your family on how you're going to take those next steps. All right, so different types of scholarships. You do not have to be an A student. You do not have to be an athlete to get scholarships. There are so many different types of scholarships, and there's billions of dollars out there. So, for example, if you are a Black woman, you can get a scholarship for one, being Black or African American, two, being a woman, and then if you're majoring in another field, in a specific field, you can get a major for that field as well. If you're first generation, nobody else in your family went to college, you can get scholarships for that. The funny one that I love to talk about is you can get a scholarship for being tall. There's actually a scholarship out there, and it just closed recently. So if you are tall, just know that there are options out there for you as well. And it does not have to be a merit-based scholarship, so you don't have to have a GPA of a certain range. It doesn't have to be financial need-based, so your family can make a certain amount of money and still get scholarships. So remember that as well. Scholarship factors, something that I've noticed. A lot of people get frustrated with scholarships because they realize they're out there and then they want to apply for everything. And then they say, scholarships take too much time. Well, there's some factors to consider. The amount for the scholarship, the level of effort. Do you have to write essays? Do you need recommendation letters? Is it a full application portal? And then popularity, who's applying for it? So what I would not suggest is a $500 scholarship that needs 5 recommendation letters and 10 essays, and everybody in the United States is applying for it. You have to start considering what I call your secret sauce formula, which is what are the factors that are going to work for you, and you also want to make it easier to continue to apply for scholarships, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. Now, there are databases out there. So you don't have to just Google all of this information, like scholarship for this major, scholarship for that major. You can go into a portal that is already built, such as CAFIX or some of the other databases that we will mention, and insert your information, and they will select scholarships for you. Now, remember, these are databases, and so the results are not always that accurate. Make sure your profile is completely filled out. That way you can get information that is more specific to you. But there are scholarships that are local, like in your churches and your guidance counselor's office. Make sure you definitely go for the local scholarships because those are easier. There's a smaller pool, so it's easier to get. It may not be an easier application, but there's a smaller pool of people applying. But just know, if you go after 10 $500 local scholarships, that's not going to cover your whole college. So again, making sure you pay attention to the scholarship factors, which are the amount, the popularity, and then making sure that you assess the effort as well. So pick 2 or 3 scholarship databases, and we're going to talk about 2 in a second. And there's no need to pay for access to these databases. Why? Because there's so many free ones. So Scholly is out there. Scholly is a paid database, but they have exclusives that are free and open to everyone as well. All right, my top 2 picks, everyone always asks. Well, my top picks for high school students, actually Scholarships 360, and I'll explain why on the next slide. And then for college students, it's CAPEX. I used CAPEX myself while I was in school. I got lots of money for them. Thank you, CAPEX. Scholarship 360. Why do I like it so much? Well, first of all, you do not have to reinvent the wheel. There are the databases out there, and then there are also specific lists of scholarships. And what do I mean by that? There could be, for example, top 32 easy scholarships to apply for in January 2021. Or there's lists such as top 20 scholarships for high school seniors. So that is very useful. And then the great thing about Scholarship 360 is once you sign up with them, they can send you a weekly digest. So on the next slide, if you just want to take a picture with your phone, this will allow you access to a form. Or if you open up your phone and hover over the QR code, this will allow you access to a form that takes less than 2 minutes, and you sign up for Scholarship 360, and they will start sending you their weekly digest. And as it says right there, scholarships in your mailbox every Monday. One thing to pay attention to is quality scholarships. So there are a lot of scholarships. Apply in 2 minutes and you'll have access to $20,000, and they're random, no-name scholarships that you never heard of. Well, Scholarship 360, they have what I call quality scholarships because they are ones that are from good organizations that actually provide scholarships to students, and it's not one of those very popular, maybe you'll win the money, maybe you won't type of scholarships. Now, CAPEX, since I mentioned it, let me just describe to you what this looks like. One thing you need to know about CAPEX is they're going to ask you a lot of questions. So save about 10 to 20 minutes to complete the profile and improve it. When you are trying to access a scholarship database, make sure for your major, you enter anything that's even related to it. So I was a computer information systems major. I had computer science, computer information systems, security information assurance. I had like 6 types in there. Why? So that I could get access to every single scholarship that even was related to that keyword. When you complete the database, you will then have access to the area over here in the bottom right, on the bottom right where it says new and then it has the name of the scholarship. This is really important because they're telling you how much it costs in an easy view, when it's due, the popularity of the scholarship over here, and how difficult it is. And remember, these are our scholarship factors, and it's already built in for you. So I am a big fan of this database, but Google can still be your friend. Google is really good for those local scholarships that are hard to find. You start typing in some keywords, STEM in Maryland, Black woman, and you just keep combining those keywords, and Google can find the ones that maybe the databases have not found. So I did use that as well. And that's how I actually ended up getting a lot of the ASPIA scholarships prior to them being entered into the major databases. And here's an example of what a scholarship would look like once you're into the portal. So we just talked about the factors that they mentioned. Then they'll give you a preview of what that scholarship is and allow you to click on the scholarship website. We talked about checklists for improving eligibility, but just know that improving your eligibility for getting into college also helps you with scholarships, because scholarship committees, they want to see that you are very well-rounded. And it depends on the type of scholarship. If it's an easy and quick one, maybe they won't ask you these questions, maybe they will not care. But for others, they love to see that you're involved, which is why organizations and volunteering is important, that you have a resume that can speak to everything that you've done, that your GPA, if it is merit-based, it is a higher GPA that aligns with the eligibility requirements. AP classes, they look good on your resume. And not only that, if you do complete the exam, do not take the class and not take the exam. That's pedaling backwards. If you're going to take the class, take the exam. And then you could get credit for it from your school. Again, all of these items help you in your application process. From a college checklist perspective, you want to keep doing the same things that you're doing in high school, but just know you want to start to shift your focus a little bit, because now you are starting to pursue a career. So you want to get internships and jobs and fellowships and things that relate to the career that you're going to go in. And surprisingly, that will also boost your resume as well and make you more likely to be able to get jobs and get jobs at a higher salary rate. Okay, so you can take a picture of this slide. These are some scholarship examples with the factors that we mentioned here. So as you can see, the 1 for 2 scholarship is a very interesting scholarship. It has an award amount of $25,000. And scholarship is really funny because the premise is that you complete a pledge, meaning they will give you $25,000 if you agree to pay for 2 other students throughout your lifetime. So 1 for 2. So they give you $25,000, and at one point you will have to pay $50,000. So it depends on what you have going on and if you need the money right then and there. And so it's for high school seniors, it's merit-based, and it's a high award amount, but you have to have a GPA of 3.9 or above. The Ingebretson Foundation, they also offer a high amount scholarship, $10,000. But as you can see, not only is it merit-based, it's financial need-based as well. So pay attention to those different factors because maybe your family has an income amount that would allow you to apply for a scholarship, but your GPA does not match the requirements and vice versa. Now, Central Scholarship, I speak highly of them. I've won many scholarships there as well as the paydowns. They have an application that is open right now. And it is financial need based, so go to the website and see the household income that is needed for this particular scholarship application. But for their interest-free loan grant, there is not a household income limit, okay? Remember, 0% interest. If I give you $100 today, you only ever owe me $100. That is very rare, so take advantage of something like that. And then College Board Opportunity Scholarship. Now, if you're not a high school senior and you're on this call, this is for high school juniors, for students who get started early. There's steps in the process where you can win 500 here, 500 there, and then if you continue the process, you can win up to $40,000. So also, I recommend Scholarship America database. I like them because they have scholarships that aren't necessarily out there and popular. These are scholarships that are specific to their database. So what does it look like after you apply for all of these scholarships? What happens? Well, you can hear absolutely nothing, crickets, and that is normal. Do not get frustrated. That's just the process. And what stops you from getting frustrated is you have to continually apply for scholarships. So each month, plan to apply for at least 1 to 3. And as you do that, you will be less concerned about who you heard back from and more concerned with just continuing to complete them, because that is what allows you to be sure that your efforts are going to pay off in the end. You can also hear back, well, I'm sorry, unfortunately, you didn't win. But the beautiful thing is that you can get that congratulations email that makes your heart skip a beat. Speaking from personal experience, and there's one of my congratulatory emails on the left-hand side. The typical email will look like this, where it'll tell you the award amount, and they will ask you for your student ID number and your school address. But it can vary. Sometimes the scholarship committee will just give you the award in cash. It depends on the committee and their preference. And sometimes there are terms and conditions, so just read the email or your award letter notification very carefully. All right, so now you won a $30,000 scholarship. Congratulations. What does that look like? They're going to take that award amount and split it between your fall and spring semester. Now, in the state of Maryland, if you win an external scholarship, they're not allowed to take away from the funding that the school gave you. So like if it's a public school, University of Maryland, you win $30,000, you won that, and you can get a refund check if you don't owe any additional money to the school. Now, if you're in a different state, they could potentially take away the amount of money that the school gave you for a school scholarship because they said, oh, hey, you don't need our money. You just got it from somewhere else. Now, what do you do in a situation like that? You don't get discouraged. You keep applying for the external scholarships until, okay, the school didn't give you any money and you still had enough money to get a refund check. All right, so let me know if you have any questions about what I'm saying there. But what I'm essentially telling you is you keep applying for these external scholarships until you have the ability to get a refund check. And then what do you do with it? You first tackle the debt, the loans that we discussed. You then save, make sure you have an emergency fund, And then if you would like, which I prefer that you do, you invest that money at some point, you purchase a home, put it in the stock market, just make sure you are continuing to pursue a wealth trajectory that allows you to excel in the future. All right, we're on our last slide. So what does this do for you? It all has a compound effect. Are you guys still there?
Yes, we hear
So
you.
I'm just happy to my computer,
Yes.
which is good that I was on the last slide.
Yes, we are
So,
still here.
What I was gonna say is if you apply for these student loans, it will allow you to have less student loan debt in the future, which will allow you to have more access to things such as car loans, home loans. It'll make you more of an eligible candidate. Also, as you improve your resume with these scholarships, you're more likely to get internships, which will then allow you to be more likely to receive a higher salary. And overall, this is just going to get you ahead of the pack. Remember, the average person is coming out of school with $35,000 worth of debt. If you do not, what does that do for you in the future? That completely changes your trajectory and where you're going to be. So I'll work on my computer issues while we're answering questions in the chat, but I just had a last slide with my contact information.
We certainly want to put that up when you get your computer back up. So let us know when it's back up. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all that information. I can tell you when you say, let me read it. 5 years, 2 degrees, 0 in student loan debt. Wow, that's phenomenal, right? And you gave tons of resources. All those are appreciated. I know you personally work with my son to find scholarships. My son is 6'7". I didn't know there was a scholarship for tall people, but but now I know. So we're gonna get on that one next because we qualify for that one. But
yeah, he just missed the deadline, just missed it, or else that would be on his tracker.
I got a tall daughter right behind him. So thank you so much, so much. And so I do want to see if there's any questions. And so let's go to the Facebook Live first to see if Chandra has any questions that she's tracking.
There are no questions at this particular time. Definitely a lot of great information. So thank you for sharing that information. But I think we do have a few questions in the chat.
Yeah, so someone had asked, oh, I'm sorry, Marlene.
No, you could go right ahead.
No, you have it.
Someone would like to know, how do they get a letter of recommendation? Where or from whom?
So you should get your letters of recommendation from your teachers and your counselor, preferably your junior teachers. And some colleges will also accept a letter of recommendation from your employer or your coaches or from someone in your place of worship. So yeah, that's where you typically get your letters of recommendation from. And you want to provide them with as much information about you as possible so they can brag about you. And also always remember to send thank you notes whenever someone writes you a recommendation or if you receive a scholarship.
Okay, another question is, can we get the slides that were presented tonight?
Well, actually, this was recorded via Facebook Live, correct? So you can go back and rewatch the Facebook Live presentation.
Can you tell us where, Dr. Ashworth, where people that are on Zoom can watch it on Facebook, please?
So it's also being recorded. So this will actually be posted on North Arundel County Alumni Chapter's Facebook page and also via our YouTube channel. So if you follow NACAC, you'll be able to see this video.
Perfect. And they'll be able to hear all the dialogue and all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay, Yolanda.
Yes, another question. My daughter went to Stevenson. It wasn't a fit for her. She then took a break and is ready to return to school. Are there scholarships that she could apply to as an older returning student?
Is Kiara still on?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll let you take that one.
Yes. So there are scholarships. Oh, I see. It's showing up as my phone. My video is here as well. But there are scholarships for returning students. There are quite a few. I would just say don't necessarily focus on that. Make sure you focus on her major, other factors that I mentioned, because we do not want to miss out on some of those scholarships just focusing on the returning student aspect. Continue to have a wide spectrum of scholarships and go after those as well. And you can even start to process the list of scholarships that you're going to go after prior to her returning school. That way you have a good action plan.
And if she's planning to stay in state, make sure you all register with the Maryland Higher Education Commission to see if there is additional scholarship money for her.
Okay, very good. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Yes, there is one question. Is it possible to attain scholarships as a second-year college student?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know, it's really funny. When I went to school, I had student loans at the first year, and I did not have a full scholarship. It was actually in my second and third year and fourth year that I got the most money in scholarships. That's why I said when you're in college, do not feel like you cannot apply for scholarships. There's a lot of money out there, and there's more money out there than what you think. Go ahead, take the chance, and you'll be surprised with the results.
And sometimes students perform better in college than they did in high school, like grade point average, because that sometimes is taken into consideration. And so, you know, by all means apply. You can go to your academic dean. That means that's the college's, like if you're in the College of Business, they have a dean of that particular school, or the College of Science or whatever, they have a dean. You can go to them. Connect with your financial aid office. You want to do everything as possible. There are donors. My daughter graduated from Penn State, and she had donors that gave her scholarship money. So as Kiera said, by all means, please always try to get as much money as you can for college, because like we said, we want you to graduate with no debt, if at all possible. No debt. Yes, that's correct. The delegate and senatorial scholarships are found on the Maryland Higher Education Commission website.
Very good. This was a very well-informed program. I wish I knew about this when my children were going to school. Thank you.
Yes. Looks like there's another question from the
Okay, I got accepted to Howard University. I received my financial package. However, I only received $11,000 in grant money and had to pay $35,000 in loans. Is this a good financial package?
Well, congratulations, you got accepted and you got scholarship money, because Howard is kind of challenging to get into, and especially as our Madam Vice President comes from Howard. So I wouldn't say that, you know, that it's not necessarily a good financial aid package. I mean, everybody thinks they're going to get full rides to college when they're in high school, but you might have to do a little bit of extra something, and I'll turn it over to Kiera so she can help you with combating that $35,000 should you choose to go there.
Yes, one of our meisters actually went to Howard, and she minimized her student loans through scholarships. So it really depends. How much do you want to go to the school? Is this award package going to stop you from going to the school? Well, if that's your number one choice, I don't think you should allow it to stop you. I think you just need a supplemental plan. So go ahead, if you want to go there, take that award package, but make sure you're doing the steps to minimize that student loan debt, that $35,000, because that's $35,000 in 1 year. Man, I'm having the worst technical difficulties tonight. So you want to make sure that you do additional factors to minimize that, external scholarships as well.
No problem. We still see you, just well, you have a spotlight, so.
Okay, I have another question for you. Would excess scholarship money carry over to preceding college years, or will the student parent have to reapply annually?
Yes, so actually it depends on the scholarship type. There's some scholarships when you apply for them, you are able to get reoccurring funding. And there's sometimes if you win a scholarship and they do this every year, you can reach back out to the scholarship committee and then ask them for additional funding. But what you'll see is sometimes the committee will put it directly on the scholarship notice that this is a one-time scholarship. So just look at the page, but if you have any questions, just email the committee that put out the scholarship.
Yeah, and just kind of.
And it doesn't carry over.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, so it looks like you're saying, does it carry over to the next year? From a school perspective, if you have additional money, excess money, they will give you a refund. They're not going to just roll it over.
Right.
Very good.
Exactly. So you want to make sure that, as Kiera suggested, that you save that money or put that money away, invest it or something like that. So, and just so you know, for those of you who are first-time college goers, you have to apply for the FAFSA every single year.
On time.
Yes.
Another question, what is the student loan pay down?
So student loan pay downs, they're a new upcoming kind of area of free money. That means that either someone is going to give you money to contribute towards your student loans, like a portion, or they're going to give you enough money to cover your student loans completely. You will see these from groups like nonprofits, but there are also organizations such as Essence. They had a competition last year, the previous year. Central Scholarship, they had one. There's also groups like, believe it or not, the beer brand, I think it's called Miller. They have one. You will just randomly see them in different places throughout the internet, and you should try to apply if you do have excess amounts of student loan debt, because I always say, why not? If you do not apply, what is it going to cause? What harm is it going to cause you? But if you apply and you win, then it was worth your effort.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
there was a question in the chat about is there a template for the tracker? I guess tracking your scholarships. I think someone was mentioned. Is there a template for a tracker that was mentioned?
Well, actually, Lisa is a client of mine, and so I actually work with her son on a basis for scholarships, and so that's what she's talking about, a tracker that I send out. But essentially, you can create your own tracker, just like the CAPEX profile that I showed you, with the amount, the due date, the level of effort, different things. You can start to create them and put them in an Excel spreadsheet. That way you can track it appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
Another question. My niece went to Hampton. Her scholarships grew every year. By the time she was a senior, she was almost on full ride.
That's
Exactly.
awesome. Congratulations.
Thought that was
That is
nice.
fantastic job. Yeah.
Very good. Another question, if your EFC is very high, around 6 figures, is it worth submitting annually?
For scholarship purposes, yes. So that your student can receive scholarships.
Plus, if your situation changes, you can be reconsidered.
Right. Yes. What about the scholarship offers that are lotteries? I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat. Are they worth it?
Oh, no, I saw the last question on there asking for the last slide that I forgot to show. So here's the last slide.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that. Yep.
Yes, so scholarships that are lotteries, you should absolutely still apply for, because you could get it. So I am one who believes in, applying for all that you qualify for, because, you never know what's going to happen. And I think it's definitely worth the time. Sometimes those scholarships take 20 minutes to do, and then you end up being a winner. You put in 20 minutes and you got $1,000, and every single penny that a student gets is worth it.
Yes, to give you a story of encouragement, I applied for the Central Scholarship pay down 3 times, because it starts off as an application process, then it turns into a lottery. That last time it was storming, it was raining. I said, why am I even going to this? But I asked myself, well, why not? What do you have to lose? I went, and that day I won. So yes, go ahead and apply for those lotteries, because you never know what it's going to bring.
Are there any other questions? Okay, turn it back over to Lisa.
I think one just came in. What are your thoughts about student loan consolidation?
I say, just do your research on that. There are a lot of companies that will help you with, paying off student loans and things like that. I don't know if you have more to add to that, Kiera, but I'm always just do your research, because there are different companies that will try to, get to you.
Yes, just be mindful of refinances and consolidations. One with refinance, if you're going to change it from a federal loan to a private loan, again, you're not eligible for some of those federal benefits, so be mindful of that. Then from a consolidation perspective, you need to look at the types of loans you had initially, what you're consolidating it to, and then what programs you're eligible for with that loan. So it just, again, it depends on your situation. I'm sorry to have to repeat that, but it's just so many different types of like loan combinations. It's hard to give you personal advice for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Super. Thank you so much. Anything else, Chandra, on the Zoom, on the Facebook?
No, there's nothing from Facebook. Thank you for asking.
Oh, okay, good. So there's Kiera's contact information. Thank you for putting that up. And she has a little discount code before February 17th, $50 off a workshop that she offers. So that is there for you if you'd like to take a picture of that. I will say that I wanted to share a couple things before we exit tonight. Our sorority, the North Arundel County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, we do offer a few scholarships. Now those deadlines have passed. We want you to keep in mind that for next year, the scholarship application periods, if I'm not mistaken, it's due the end of January, and we offer several scholarships. And so I definitely encourage you to go to our website, which is nacacdst.org. And you can hover across the top under programs and go down to scholarships and learn a lot about our scholarships that we offer here in our chapter as a way to help the community. And I also wanted to share one more thing. Actually, I think Chandra is going to share it about our upcoming conference that we have in March. And so I can pull up the slide if you'd like me to, Chandra, the presentation for that. Let me pull that up.
Yes.
Okay. Let me know when you see it there.
Kiera needs to stop sharing that.
Oh, okay. Kiera, you can stop sharing and then.
I just did, hopefully.
We can see it.
Okay.
Super.
Okay, so thank you, Kiera, and thank you, Tiffany, for this wonderful presentation, this information. Thank you for sharing this wealth of knowledge and resources on how to attain money to fund our college dreams. So once again, thank you for sharing your time and expertise this evening. And we just wanted to share with our audience, with those who are here with us, that we have an upcoming Financial Destination Financial Freedom Conference that will take place on Saturday, March the 6th from 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. So we have awesome presenters talking about entrepreneurship, tips to potentially lower your tax liability, life insurance, building your retirement, estate planning, going to college for free, buying a house, and there's so much more. So if you're ready to elevate your financial status for 2021, feel free to join us on Saturday, March the 6th. Registration is open, and this is a free conference. So not only bring yourself up, tell a family member, tell a friend, just show up with you and your community. So thank you so very much.
Thank you for sharing that. And so once again, I'll just reiterate, thank you to those ladies, Tiffany and Kiera. I know them both. They both are just have helped my family tremendously. And so I'm speaking from experience and just saying that they are the real deal. And I want to thank them so much for taking time out of their evenings to join us tonight. And thank you all to our Facebook attendees, as well as our Zoom attendees. We really appreciate you coming out to talk with us tonight. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.